Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you wouldn't mind giving us a like, and consider going ahead and subscribing as well, that would be fantastic. And if you really want to go the extra mile, go down to the description below and click the Patreon link. Lots of cool stuff going on there. As always, I love you, and enjoy the show, guys. Memories of Creature 88 by user RegalLegalEagle. Chapter 18 Team Building Exercise. Vincent was trying to get up as Kirana insisted he stay down.
Careful. You're probably bleeding internally.
Yeah, I know. He saw her pulling out some splints and a compress. Perhaps for his cracked ribs, maybe? He wasn't sure quite what the procedure was for that, and he figured she didn't either. He waved away her supplies. Don't bother. Got one of those pocket scanner things? She nodded and pulled what looked like a small smartphone from back on Earth out of the satchel. Handing it over, he grabbed it and pressed the base to his sternum before pressing the big green button. There was a beep, and he read the thankfully small list that it came up with.
You've got internal bleeding.
Kirana reached back into the bag, but once more he waved her off. I appreciate the effort, but I got it. He reached into his harness and pulled out a small inhaler. He hated using this stuff. Generally only pumping if he'd been on a bunch of synth and needed an immediate boost. Often it made him a bit too jittery if he couldn't work out the energy, but he got the feeling he wouldn't have that issue. Pressing the inhaler to the slit in his mask, he activated it and took a deep breath of the minty gas that burned his lungs. As the drug did its work, he could feel the pain fading, and stood up as he glanced around at the little team Kirana had. The female howler was still watching the dead end the satyrs had gone down. There was Kirana, and he started to pull Kirana behind him as he saw the other satyr. But then he realized she didn't have a mask and was wearing a modified hunting harness. Nothing military grade. She was facing away, watching the other end of the alley.
I'm glad we found you. I wanted to show you what I've been doing.
He glanced at Kirana as she spoke and then looked for his magnum, picking it up and holstering it. Getting yourself some femme fatales? He could see the confusion on her face. It's a phrase my people have for beautiful but deadly women. At that moment, the howler and satyr glanced back at him, and he saw a smile creep over Kirana's face. What had he just done?
You could say that. We didn't know you were the one down here at first. We just heard the fighting and came to help. But when I saw someone chase those other satyr, I knew it had to be you.
He nodded. Well, I certainly appreciate the help, but we need to get back to Little Autostov.
You might find that harder than you'd hoped.
The female satyr spoke up. Her voice was a little raspy, and he examined her a bit more closely. Her horns were black, but the brownish fur along her face was tinged with gray and white. He had no idea if Xenos had similar aging habits to humans, but he'd suspect she was older. Not too old to hold a rifle, though. She had good form. Why's that? He asked, and she nodded down the alley, walking towards it slowly. Once she glanced around the corner, she waved him forward without looking back. He edged out and glanced, seeing several Rovik and howlers run past with weapons in hand. Ducking back, he glanced at the satyr. How many have you seen go by?
Hard to count. Perhaps 20.
There was scattered weapons fire in the distance, and Vincent listened to it for a moment before it faded away.
Are they attacking the Ormani again?
Kirana asked from behind him.
No, I think they're skirmishing a bit, but it's not a fight like earlier. I think they're moving to cut us off.
Vincent shook his head at the thought. Not knowing the area very well, he quickly brought up a more detailed map in his vision through his mask for a moment. If we head west, I think we can slip out of here and then up a service lift to the local maintenance center. It's not a patrol post, but it should have access to the upper levels. Pulling his magnum back out of the holster, he glanced over at the satyr and then the howler. I know Kirana, but I haven't caught your names.
Frey,
the satyr said with a nod.
Mung.
Vincent glanced at the ape-like howler and was tempted to ask if she was related to the Kongs, but knew it wouldn't make any sense. All right, Kirana, you're in the middle at all times. Frey, you stick with Kirana. Mong, I'm going to advance first. Once I make it to the next junction, I'll check and then motion. Once I do, I want Kirana and Frey to advance, and once they're clear, you follow. But then you then you bypass us and advance to the next junction, where you do the same for us. Me and you will keep switching off. We green?
Green.
Vincent nodded and slipped around the corner, heading down the alley towards the next junction. He stopped and glanced out for a moment. There were felons down the street blocking them from Little Otostov, but they were looking the wrong way. Turning, he looked back and then waved the others up. Once he saw Frey and Kirana moving, he looked back out into the street, making sure no one was looking their way. He didn't know Mong was advancing until she rushed past him across the street, not stopping until she was in the alley on the other side. After a moment, he saw the hand and he turned back to Frey and Kirana, waving them on. He kept a wary eye down the alley they'd come from. After a few seconds, he looked back down the street to make sure Frey and Kirana were across before he sprinted across himself. This was part of why he hated using the adrenaline inhaler. He just wanted to keep running, and then hopefully rip something apart with his hands once he got going. But he forced himself to slow down after passing Kirana and her crew and reaching the next junction. There was a small square of sorts, some businesses, and a general open area for gatherings or the like. He didn't see any felons. When he waved the women forward this time, he waited to see Mong sprint forward before holding up a hand for her to stop. She slowed and edged up to the opening of the alley with him. I don't see any more. We're probably good to move more normally. Just stay in a cluster. I'll take point, same as before. Frey and Kirana in the middle, Mong taking up the rear. Sound good? They nodded, and he began to walk out into the open area. He saw some Xenos milling around, but no Roviks or Howlers. And, more importantly, no felons with weapons. Tapping on his mask, he tried to get his comm active. Handler? Do you read me, Handler? This is Creature 88. He paused for a moment and then tried again. Open patrol channel. Anyone in my area? This is Creature 88. Please respond. Still nothing. They were roughly in the middle of the open square when he heard some awful music start to blare out of speakers and screens all around them. Then every screen he could see, even the large municipal screen meant for official broadcast, turned on. Hello, hello, hello! A voice howled out before the picture came in. It was a male howler with light green fur accented with yellow stripes, which he'd never seen before. Listen good, my brothers and sisters of the lower sectors. It is I, your voice, your one and only preacher. Ha ha! He partially laughed, partially howled as Vincent grimaced. This cannot be good, he said as he watched. I'm here to bring you the word, and right now the word is money. As you can see, strike it rich tonight with fat stacks of credits. How does 20,000 credits sound? That sounds pretty damn good to me right now. Now I know what you're all asking right now. Preacher, how do I get myself 20,000 credits? I live in the lower sectors, shunned and abandoned by those greedy parasites up top. Those who get to see the sky. Well, I'll tell you, it involves public enemy number 1. The Shade! Suddenly, the picture switched over to a live feed of Vincent and the others standing in the square. He looked around for a moment and then saw the drone up above. Quickly raising his magnum, he fired and saw the thing spark and spin before crashing to the ground as the image on the screen went black. Oh, shit! I guess we didn't think that one through. He's a hell of a shot with that hand cannon of his, isn't he, folks? Well, right now, the Shade is on Sector 47, Block 50. Spitting distance from Little Otostov. But don't worry, we've got that path blocked already. Move, Vincent urged and began running the way they'd been going as the others moved to catch up. Don't you go nowhere, Shade. I've got some credit-hungry citizens heading your way. You might have shot down a drone, but I have eyes and ears everywhere. Remember, folks, don't bother feeling remorse if you want to collect on that 20,000 credits. Just bring us his body or his head! 2 pieces or less. Aha! He's evil, an incarnation of the injustice brought upon us by those who live above. You kill him, and he comes back. Does he feast on the souls of poor orphans? Is he a machine? Is he an unholy demon summoned by the dragons themselves at the cost of millions of dead lower levelers like us? We want to find out! Who the fuck is this asshole? Vincent growled as they ran.
You haven't heard of him?
Kirana asked. I'm pretty sure I'd fucking remembered.
He's Preacher. He's been broadcasting on the lower levels for about a week, spreading lies and rumors about you and the patrol in the upper level.
Fantastic, Vincent muttered. What the fuck has he got against me?
A lot.
Great. They were heading down the alley when he saw a Rovik in front of them. He didn't even think as he leveled his magnum and fired, dropping the Zeno with a single headshot, which he had to admit was pretty lucky on the run. It wasn't until they were trying to slip past the large bulk of the body that he saw the Rovik was indeed armed. Once they were out on the next street, he heard more of the broadcast. The systemic enslavement of our poor races by those fat credit-stuffed hogs up top. They brought us into the Union for what? Cheap labor and a source of misery to feed their arrogance. That's what. There they are! He saw a Gurgat pointing at them from down the street. There was a small cluster of felons, and he spotted some massive but poorly made-looking blaster in the Gurgat's hands. The Gurgat died first, with 2 slugs slamming into his chest before Vincent was really aware he had fired. The other felons broke for cover, and what few civilians were around screamed and ran for cover as the massive Zeno slammed into the ground. Mong was quick to join him, ducking behind a cargo lift as she shot from around the corner of it. Frey slapped Kirana's back and ran across the street with her. Vincent moved next, and, as he reached the alley, stayed just at the edge, firing wild shots in the general direction of the remaining felons. Looked like Mong had killed a Vernic, and he saw a howler on the street writhing in pain. With the Magnum barking at them, none of the felons looked ready to get up and fire back, so Mong sprinted from cover to join them. Once they were all in the alley, they broke procedure from before and ran for it. Vincent was hastily reloading his Magnum, careful not to drop any casings for the felons to track him by. They had reached a small service lift that he'd seen on the map in his mask, and it looked functional. He swiped his badge over the interface and saw it light up. Then he took cover and watched the way they'd come down. Okay, what the hell is going on? 20,000 credits to kill me? Why? What's the fucking point? I'm just going to come back. Kirana shrugged, but Frey spoke up.
Make sure they know you can die, even if just temporarily. There were some rumors about you being immortal, or that you never actually died but were incredibly durable, things like that. Felons started to figure if they can't kill you, why even try? It would do them better to surrender and go to jail instead of die. But if they know they can kill you, that means they can escape.
Vincent thought it over for a moment. That's pretty good thinking, actually, in a fucked-up wanting felons to commit crimes sort of way. But who's bankrolling that preacher?
Someone who can jam comm signals,
Frey answered. Shit! I thought the patrol signal had some sort of protection against that.
You can have redundancies, but anyone sufficiently motivated will find a way to block any signal.
Vincent glanced at Frey once more. Where are you from? I don't mean home planet. I mean, how do you know about stuff like this?
I used to be the chief security officer for a dragon, for all of 1 year before she died.
Vincent arched a brow, and she must have noticed his stare.
Old age.
I heard that takes a while.
A great long while, but it still happens. Once it does, all the dragon's security staff become useless.
Useless? You guys could easily get jobs working protection for execs and the like, couldn't you? The older satyr laughed.
Yeah, but we don't for religious and cultural reasons. At the time it seemed like the right choice, but now as an old woman living in the older sectors, let me tell you, I wish I had sold out back when I was still worth something.
I thought the dragons pay well.
They do, but when you combine poor money management with a culture that thinks education is for the weak, and a cultural bias to not ask for help, you kinda blow through your savings pretty quick.
No offense, but your guys' culture sounds pretty stupid right about now.
Yeah. Hindsight is 20/20.
She muttered and then nodded down the alley. He quickly looked back and steadied his magnum. They heard faint talking, but no one seemed ready to rush down the alley. Vincent glanced up at the lift for a moment and then turned back to it, popping open the little service panel. He began to fiddle with it for a moment and snapped it closed just in time for the lift to open once it arrived. He waved the others inside and then stepped in after them, motioning for Kirana to stop as she reached for one of the upper levels. Instead, he hit a button for the lowest possible sector this lift could go. 62.
62?
Kirana asked, obviously confused. I changed the reading. We go down, the display out says we're going up. They're expecting us to go up, but I'm betting they aren't jamming the signals down there. If I can find a clear sector, I do know that the patrol frequency is good anywhere.
But they'd still need to come get us,
the Vernick said, obviously worried. Yeah, and there's patrol craft for this reason. The gaps between blocks aren't just to stop fires from spreading and shit like that. Patrol can fly anywhere they want. That's sort of the point of flying. Kirana looked a little bashful after his response before he sighed out. Sorry, it's the adrenaline and shit. I get aggressive. She smiled a bit at that.
It's all right. It was kind of a dumb statement.
Vincent closed his eyes for a moment and then rubbed them with his free palm. Large doses of adrenaline mixed with combat weren't great for his ability to read people. It seemed like she was sort of into him, but he really had no clue what to make of that right now. So instead he changed the topic by nodding at Mong. So what's your story?
I was part of the gang you visited earlier in the week.
The Howler looked at him as she said that, but he had to think for a moment. Oh, the bikers. I shot a few of you and told you to clean up the block. She nodded. So how'd you get from there to here? The Zeno snorted.
I heard stories about power and joined up to get a taste of belonging to a group that calls the shots. Then you came along and demonstrate actual power. Your request? That we be nice to people? That we help out our neighborhood and show some respect? So we did that. But then some gangs started to move in on our territory. The others figured let 'em because why not? We're not a gang anymore. They don't get it.
So you left?
First I killed the people leading the other gangs and used their heads to mark our territory. Then I called the rest of the old gang cowards and scum. I shamed them into defending the territory.
Remind me not to piss you off, then. Vincent examined the bigger Zeno a bit more carefully. She didn't have the striping like the preacher. He still wasn't sure if it was a different subspecies or just a different hairstylist.
Then this one found me. I figured I had a better chance to help with her in the old one than in my block. Would you stop calling me the old one? I bet I could take you in unarmed combat,
Frey growled.
This is unlikely,
Mong said flatly in reply.
Only one way to find out.
They faced each other just as Vincent stepped between them. This is most certainly not the time or the place for this. Mong, you have size, strength, and youth. Frey has experience and training. You really shouldn't think those who want to work with you are inferior unless they prove it physically. Was I stronger than the members of your gang? Am I stronger than you? The Howler studied him for a moment.
Point taken.
The lift chimed, and they quickly readied their weapons. Vincent was wishing for a shotgun right about now. The Magnum was loud and scared the shit out of people, just as useful at stopping fights from starting as it was ending fights that had already begun. But a nice pump action would have the same effect, and he could kill more felons at once with it. But alas, all he had was his blacksmith and West. As the door opened, they slipped out, glancing around and not seeing any ready ambush. He brought up a map and began to guide them further west through the city. As they came out near a street, he saw some Zenos standing around watching the screens. Preacher was on. There were some teenage-looking Vernick nearby.
Hey, we should get in on this. 30,000 for the shade, or $5,000 for one of the bitches with him. Easy credit, man.
Vincent fired between them, hitting the screen they were watching. As they cried and gasped in surprise and terror, he walked up and backhanded the teenager to the ground, watching the fear in the kid's eyes as he leveled the barrel of his Magnum with the kid's face. Let me set the record straight for here, you little shit. I will kill any dumb fuck who tries to collect. I come back from the dead while the felons I kill just rot in the fucking ground. The other juveniles were backing away from him, and he saw several scared Zenos on the street prepared to bolt. So he took the opportunity to yell out, "Spread it around! The only people who come after me are dumb or dead already. The dumb and the dead!" He began to walk down the middle of the street now. It wasn't the best idea if someone was after him, but he knew that at times showing extreme confidence worked wonders. The people began to quickly disperse.
30,000 credits. It seems like you're already appreciating in value,
Frey muttered. What about it, girls? Turn me in for 30,000 credits? It's a lot of money.
If we weren't already on the list, too, I'd say we hand you over and use the money to buy better gear for next time you come down here. But hey, we're already on the list, so never mind.
Frey followed up. Vincent smirked. Pragmatic. I like that. He tapped his mask then. Handler, do you read me?
Creature 88!
He heard Cavazor sounding a bit worried. That wasn't good.
The lower sectors are going crazy. I'm getting all sorts of reports about attacks on patrols. Security is at Tier 1.
That doesn't sound so bad.
What? Not bad. Creature 88, that's one away from the worst. Tier 0. Complete martial law.
Oh, right. The system goes down. I forgot. Look, do you have a reading on my section?
Yes, we're way down there. I've got a craft in the area we need to extract you.
That's fine. I've got company. 4 total, including me.
Patrol Group 674?
What? No. Helpful citizens, but civilians.
Blast. I was hoping you'd found them.
Vincent shook his head at the thought of a lost patrol team down here right now. Were they near my sector?
No, but I was still hoping. Proceed south, 2 blocks, then turn right and follow that to the end to get to a landing pad. The craft is on the way. And Creature 88.
Yes, Handler.
Good to hear from you again. How did you lose connection anyway?
Not on an open channel, Handler.
Right. Handler out.
Vincent nodded at the women. South 2 blocks, turn right, enter the street. They nodded at that and began to move with him, setting a light jog as they headed through the streets. There was a point in walking in the open and not hiding, but right now he figured jogging in the open wasn't a bad alternative. He was starting to think they were in the clear, which was dangerous thinking in a place like this. But they were soon at the landing pad, which was surprisingly clear. In fact, he felt like it might have been used recently, but not by patrol. He marked the location in his mask.
Can your lift drop me off near my apartment? All this running has started to take it out of me,
Frey mentioned, and he glanced over at her.
I'm fairly sure we're getting an express ride to Level 2. Level 2? I've never been past Level 28,
Kirana said, sounding excited. Mong grunted.
Level 30 here. Trust me, girls, it's overrated,
Frey muttered as they watched the street coming in. But Vincent was looking out at the block across from them. It looked clean. He glanced back the way they came and saw the graffiti, including a massive mural of a burning bird and screaming people that gave him the creeps, plus the trash and just dirt in general. But then as he looked back across, just clean walls. He heard, then saw the lift, and quickly keyed into their frequency. This is Creature 88. Got us? We see you, Shade. Coming in. He waved at the craft, and then saw a figure suddenly appear in a window across from them. A satyr? He saw the shoulder launcher and quickly screamed on his comm. Evasive maneuvers! Move! What? The pilot was obviously surprised, but jerked hard and rolled the craft away from the landing pad just as the missile streaked right through where it would have been, missing it and blowing up a section of the block below them. LZ is hot! Sorry, Shade, you're on your own! Vincent was trying to get an angle on the satyr, but the windows were all empty already. He watched the craft quickly head back up into the darkness. Fuck! He screamed in anger and frustration.
Creature 88, this is Handler. What's going on?
We have some seriously unfriendly people here. We need an alternate route.
We have company,
Frey called out, and he looked back down the street, seeing Xenos with weapons start to head their way. She fired off some blasts which made them stop and take cover, slowing their advance.
Can you go back the way you came?
No!
Take the street up the other way a block, you'll see a staircase on the edge. Take it down.
Stairs? Gotta be fucking kidding me. Vincent saw a howler rise up and quickly put a blaster bolt in the felon's head, which made the others duck once more. Follow me, he urged, and began to quickly head up the other street, away from the felons. He saw the stairs where they should be, and quickly ushered Kirana and the others down before taking up the rear. Before he went down, he fired off several rounds at the felons who were brave enough to follow. As he headed down the stairs, he worked to reload once more. How far down, Handler? Just as he asked, he heard some blaster fire and saw the bolts flash by the stairs down into the darkness. Mong stopped and fired a reply. He heard a scream but didn't stop as he kept heading down.
Take the exit for Sector 65.
Vincent cursed as they had to keep heading down the flights of stairs, trading fire with the felons above them off and on. Neither side had a good shot, but the felons kept trying and Mong wasn't going to let them do all the shooting, it seemed. Frey was panting rather heavily at this point, but Vincent was still going strong on adrenaline. So as he saw the door for Sector 65, he caught up with her, and then, despite her protests, quickly ducked and pulled her over his shoulders for a fireman carry. He moved through the door sideways so he didn't smack Frey against the sides and kept running. "Handler!"
Left. Half a block. I called up the lift.
He was running full bore, leaving Mong to take up the rear now. He saw the lift, and as the doors opened he quickly set Frey down and pushed her inside, before turning to cover the others. Kirana wasn't far behind, but Mong was about a quarter block back, and the felons were pouring out of the stairwell. He fired past Mong, but she took a blast bolt to her right leg, screamed and tumbled. "Leave me!" she was yelling, but Vincent had already started moving, the moment he saw her get hit. Rolling her over so she faced the felons, he gripped the back of her harness at the neck and began to drag. "Fucking fire back!" he screamed as Bolt zipped past. Evidently she did fire back because he heard other screams and they made it into the lift as he quickly hit the button to close the door, and the lift started to hum as it moved. "God damn, you're heavy," he panted out. "See what being young and inexperienced gets you?" Frey said with a nervous laugh. Kirana was pulling out her supplies to fix up Mong's leg, and Vincent looked at the panel. "Where are we going?" "To the surface. Lowest level there is. 88. Vincent stared at the panel and confirmed 88 was the lowest button. "The city has 88 levels? Are you fucking kidding me? Seriously?" Fucking figures. Adrenaline or not, he was pretty beat at this point. Shaking his head, he leaned against the corner of the lift, hands on his thighs. He saw Frey frown and press a hand to one of her ears. "What?" "I've got chatter." Vincent quickly scanned the patrol channels. "How? Who?" "I've still got my old comm. It's a satyr channel. Not friendly." "Fuck! Are they waiting for us?" She listened intently for a moment, then shook her head. No, they're hunting someone, but not us. Some code names I don't know. Source Black Source, I don't know." Vincent had his own suspicions, but he didn't say anything. He just kept catching his breath. When they got to the bottom, Mong was back up, hobbling on her good leg. Vincent propping up one arm and Kirana the other. "Handler, what are we looking for?" He stared around the ground and felt his hair stand on end. Ground, dirt, earth. Well, not earth, but still it was strange to see. A fog hung over everything, and he looked up at the massive supports holding up the underbelly of the city.
"Straight ahead of you should be one of the big support pylons."
"Yeah, it's hard to miss. It's bigger than a skyscraper."
"Head towards it. Straight ahead to the base."
The group made their way over the uneven ground with a little difficulty, but after the running it was a welcome change to walk. It was only about a half a kilometer to the pylon. "What now?"
"See that blue bolt? Should be near the center."
"Yeah, I got it."
"Swipe your badge over it."
Vincent swiped his badge, and the section of wall swung open. Some old lights flickered on, and they stumbled inside before the door shut behind them. "Where are we?"
"An old secret, apparently. It's a service tram that goes from 2 to 88. It's part of the original construction gear. Apparently, they wanted it only for emergencies, so it was never registered. No tracking equipment."
"Why didn't you tell me about it before?"
"Because I'm only now being told about it by Council Chair Cayuna."
Perhaps Vincent now had a friend on the council. She'd been nice to him at Latero's estate, and now this. They kept walking and saw the tram just ahead of them, the structure rising up further than he could see. It was a bit dusty and smelled a little damp, but right now this was a golden chariot to heaven.
"We've got a med team waiting up here if you need it, but once we're up here, the council wants to see you."
Maybe not a golden chariot to heaven. Maybe this was a prison transport straight to hell. He'd find out. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. As always, like, comment, subscribe down below if you could. Go to the thingamabob and click the link to the Patreon. A lot of backlog at the moment, so there is plenty of stuff early release for you to get access to. And I'm fiddling with the idea of doing a patrons-only a patrons only stream. I think you can do private streams. I don't know how you do it, but thank you, Ribbon. I'm doing my best. But anyway, guys, this was recorded while streaming. I'm going to go to D&D tonight. I hope you try a tabletop role-playing game soon. They're very fun. Enjoy them. Also, tell me what do you prefer? Do you like Pathfinder? Do you like D&D 5e 3.5? Sorry. Obviously joking. Don't play 3.5. Also, don't play 4. Just play 5. 5e is kind of my favorite, personally. But Call of Cthulhu is a really fun system. What's the one? Oh, God. There's one that's really cool that I can't remember. It was what they played in the Adventure Zone Amnesty. I really enjoyed Amnesty. It's such a fucking cool. Dust was neat too, but it wasn't very long. They're doing Dust 2. They did Dust 2 apparently. What was the game mechanics? God damn it. I don't remember. Powered by the Apocalypse. That's a really cool one. And it was a Monster of the Week. It was Powered by the Apocalypse Monster of the Week. Which is fucking cool. I really, really enjoyed that system. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, if it's one that I haven't listed, please list it below. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you in the next one. And as always, I love you so much. Bye. Hi, I'm Paul. God. Sorry. Dun, dun, dun. It's a good show. Let's see. What else is there? There's so many, like, Rothfire Basket. That was like the first season of Sunny, I think, that they did that one. Let's see. I can't think of any other things. Anyway, bye!